We're going to figure out all the possible two-letter combinations of vowels. We'll do that by filling in this grid. This is called the vowel generator because it generates all the two-letter vowels in English. Your grid should be landscape orientation. Leave the first square blank and write all the vowels across the first row. A, E, I, O, and U. Now write all the vowels again down the first column. A, E, I, O, and U. Before we start though, we need 3 more letters. There are 3 other letters that go with the vowels A, E, I, O, and U to spell vowel sounds. Do you know any of them? Those supplementary letters are R, W, and Y. Let's generate the first 2-letter vowel, starting with the first letter in the first column, the letter A. Let's combine it with the first letter on the top row. This would give us the vowel combination AA. Is that a common vowel combination in English? No. It appears in aardvark and aardwolf, but they're words of Dutch origin, a language in which AA is common. So we'll put a cross in that square. How about AE? AE is not common, but it is allowable. I tend not to include it during therapeutic lessons, but by all means teach it to mainstream students or adults. Our example word is going to be aeronautical. We're now going to use the spelling formula to spell aeronautical. Firstly, step 1 is count the syllables. How many syllables in aeronautical? 5, right? It doesn't matter at this stage where your students break the syllables as long as they can count that there are 5 syllables. Step 2, draw lines. This means 5 horizontal lines across their working out page. Once lines have been drawn, then you do step 3. Start with what I know. Now, what do we know? In the word aeronautical, we're in the first square of our vowel generator AE. So somewhere in that word, there's an AE on one of those lines. Which line? That's right, the first. So let's put AE in now. Next step, ask yourself this: have I written a vowel? If the answer is yes, then say the whole syllable, air. Some people may want to add an R here, and that's absolutely fine. And others may say air. Yep, I've written AE, and that's a vowel that satisfies the criteria of having the sound air right there. So the question now is, does that match what I've written? And yes, it matches. So you move on. Step 5, say the next syllable. R, aeronautical. Now, if you know how to spell the word aeronautical, you'll say row and you'll put an O there, but that's not the point. In normal speech, you say aeronautical and it's an sound. And the most common solution for that sound is either ER or U, sometimes UH. But of course this won't work. What you have to do now is say, because we can't hear the sound of that vowel because it's in a weak syllable, you've got a choice of 5 letters. And if you choose from these 5 letters, you'll be right most of the time. What 5 letters? That's right, A, E, I, O, U, the vowels. All right, so with process of elimination, you'll eventually come to the fact that the vowel in this syllable is O. Now, have you written a vowel? Yes. Say the whole syllable, R. Does this match what I've written? No. So let's fill in the missing letters. What letter's missing? R. And now we have air. Great. So let's start with step 6. Which consonant can we start the next syllable with? Air, no. N. So let's put the N at the beginning of that next syllable. Say the whole syllable. No. Have I written a vowel? No. So what vowel? Or. Well, there are lots of alternatives, but inside words, or is usually spelt AU. So now we have no. Sometimes you'll just have to tell your students this, because this is not a lesson in spelling the word aeronautical. It's a lesson in adopting a formula that's going to make them right most of the time. Now let's say the next syllable, T. What consonant can we start the next syllable with? Yep, T. Say the whole syllable, T. Does this match what I've written? No, we need a vowel. What vowel? Well, this is fairly straightforward. It sounds like I, so it's probably an I. So now we have aeronautic. We've written a vowel. Let's move on. The last syllable, cool. What consonant can I start this syllable with? C or K? And this is where we bring in step 7. And step 7 is keep it simple. Keep it simple means you use the most common letter. That's the first step of keep it simple. So when you have a k sound in a word, the most common letter is the letter C. And indeed, it is the letter C in this last syllable. Have we written a vowel? No. Aeronautical. Again, if you haven't seen that word or don't know how to spell it, you're not going to know it's an A. So the solution here is, if it's an sound, aeronautical, a very indistinct, weak vowel sound, you've got 5 choices. What are the choices? A, E, I, O, or U. And by process of elimination, you're going to have to go through this and find that it's an A. Again, this isn't a lesson about this word, it's a lesson about the formula. Now, say the whole syllable. We've written a vowel, say the whole syllable. Cool. Does this match what I've written? No. So fill in the missing letters. Cool. What's the missing letter? L. And there we have aeronautical. So you can now return to the vowel generator and write aeronautical. Now you can write aeronautical in the AE square. The next combination is AI. Is that common or not common? It's common, right? A, as in rain. So we write AI in the next square of the grid, leaving some space for an example word. Now we have the word contain. AO, yes or no? And the answer is no. You do have words like aorta, but if you look at aorta, what you have is the A followed by the O, but 2 distinct syllables, A or ta. AU, yes or no? Definitely. AU says or. Let's use the spelling formula to spell the or word, August. Now we have August. On to the next square. AR, yes or no? That's right, R is a common 2-letter vowel. Let's use the word particularly. There's a special note here, and that is that this seems like a fairly laborious process, but what it is an imitation of what we do very rapidly as good spellers. What we're doing is we're helping people to internalize this formula, because this is what good spellers do. This is the kind of self-checking that they do in order to spell the words they need to spell. The important point here, though, is that your students aren't going to have to go through this formula 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 laboriously like that for the rest of their lives. You only need to practice this 2 or 3 times with the mainstream classroom before people start really getting it, because it's intuitive. The next word is the word particularly. Let's use the spelling formula. Step 1. Count the syllables. How many syllables? 5. Draw lines. So we have 5 lines, and we start with what we know. Firstly, we know that at least in one of those syllables there's an AR. Which syllable? The first syllable, that's right, the AR in pa, even though we say particularly. There's also another AR, and your students may spot this, and that's fine to place it on the 4th line. All right, now that we've started with what we know, there's something else. There's a suffix in here. What suffix? Ly, and Ly is always spelt like this. All right, let's put that on the last syllable line. Not much else to do, really. So, going back to the beginning, we've written a vowel. Say the whole syllable, pa, pa. Does this match what I've written? No. So fill in the missing letters. P, good. Next syllable. Which consonant can we start it with? Pa, tick, t. Good. Write the letter T. And then what's the vowel? I. Does this match what I've written? Pa, tick, tick, no. So fill in the missing letters. And some people might write CK because tick is a word, right? And this is where this idea of getting students to look for the small words inside big words doesn't really work. It's much better to have students sound things out and use the spelling formula, or at least use the most common letter. The second part of the step, keep it simple, is use one letter, not two, wherever you possibly can. So if you're looking for a k sound here, CK is not keeping it simple. You're using the most common letter, C. Pa, tick. Good. Next syllable. Say the whole syllable, pa, tick, U. What else could it be but a U? Let's move on. Say the next syllable, particular. What consonant can we start the next syllable with? L. And that's the whole word dealt with, particularly. Students often report that they find this quite easy and they didn't realize that it was that simple. They ask me questions like, is that all there is? Because a common coping strategy is to throw letters at a page and see what sticks. If you write more letters, struggling spellers think, then it makes you look like you know more letters. But actually, we have to keep drilling in, keep it simple. The word we're going to spell is unlawfully. Let's use the spelling formula to work this word out. In the last square, we have AY saying A, which is also a common two-letter vowel. The word we're going to generate is playfulness. Now what I'd like you to do is pause the video and fill in the rest of the grid, putting an X where a two-vowel combination doesn't exist, and trying to think of some nice, complex, long words where the two-letter vowel does exist. Take 5 or 10 minutes to do this, and then come back. Your vowel generator should now look something like this. Let's have a look at the few of the lines. There are some observations that are worthwhile noting. Firstly, E goes with just about everything except O. I isn't that friendly. It has IE and IR, and that's it. But look at O. O goes with everything. But what do you notice about O? Yes, it goes with everything, but only, if you look down this column, if it goes first. So that's something good to note. If you have a two-letter vowel with the letter O in it, O is always first. Going down to U, it's fairly straightforward until we get to UY. I've decided to include it because we have common words like guy and buy. In your materials, you have many common words that have these two vowel combinations. They're called the Junior and the Senior Spelling Formula Word List.